Hi folks, my name is Eric Barnett and I'm a singer-songwriter based out of Charleston, South Carolina, and you're listening to Songs of the Unsung. Songs of the Unsung is a podcast coupled with a monthly original music showcase here in Charleston. On the podcast, I talk shop with songwriters I cross paths with in my musical travels. The first showcase is set to take place on Sunday, December 12th at Free House Brewery in North Charleston from 2 to 5 p.m. On the bill that day is Noah Grove, Mike Friend, and Ben Somewhere. Free House is an organic brewery, tap room, and outdoor beer garden situated on the banks of the historic and natural Ashley River. We brew beer as we wish it to be, organic, local, and seasonal. With over 24 taps, including gluten-free options and house-made organic lemonade, we have something for all palates. Free House is open to everyone and welcomes all guests with a smile and a cold beer. Inquire about hosting your event or special occasion with us at info@freehousebeer.com. Today's guest on the podcast is Noah Grove. Noah is a nomadic multi-instrumentalist, a recording engineer and producer, a kite surfer, and a husband. He's got a warm smile, a firm handshake, a busker's soul, and often a puffy jacket. Anytime you're near Noah, listening to his music, or even just watching him in a YouTube interview as research for a podcast you're doing, you're going to catch a love of music, an openness to his community, and a willingness to jam. I believe the term is good vibes. Noah has 4 albums out on all streaming platforms. I'll have links in the show notes. He also fronts a band called Noah and the Space Ark, hosts a weekly Mic Club Open Jam, and operates The Grove, a recording studio at his home. Catch Noah at our first Songs of the Unsung original music showcase on Sunday, December 12th at Free House in North Charleston from 2 to 5 p.m. Hey Noah, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Glad to have you on the podcast, man.
Okay, right on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. This is my first time ever doing a podcast, so there's a lot I need to learn, but I appreciate you being the guinea pig on this.
I appreciate the opportunity to be the guinea pig. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. I remember the first time I saw you playing around town, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but you came to McCann's open mic night. I remember you coming out. I remember the puffy jacket. We got to talk about the puffy jacket that I talked about in the intro. It's kind of maybe it's an inside joke between Noah and I right now, but I remember that. I remember at the time you came and did a James Taylor song. I can't remember which one it was. I remember you did it very well.
All right, thank you.
And then I remember you did It's Kind of Windy, the Kite Surfing song, because I remember the shh.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, this is different. I didn't like... Something happens at open mic nights that musicians generally only care about how they did, and then when other people get up there, they sort of just talk to each other about how they did.
Yeah. And
so I missed your introduction for that, so I was like, well, this is interesting. But do you remember that night at all by any chance?
Yeah. I definitely remember going to McCann's. I went to McCann's a couple of times, and I remember an occasion where I met you there, or I don't know that we actually met there for the first time or whatever, but I do remember that was one got to be one of the first times that we crossed paths and that we met. But yeah, it's hard to remember like all the details about it.
Sure. Oh yeah.
There's so many nights of music, you know.
Right. No, I got you.
But yeah.
How long have you been in Charleston?
Probably about 3.5 years, maybe 4 years now.
4 years.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, probably approaching 4 years. Yeah.
So I encourage anybody listening to this podcast to go on YouTube and check out Noah's Mufic interview with Joshua Jarman. They go over a lot of stuff about, his moves from Long Beach to Brentwood, Tennessee. I'm not going to rehash all the things that, he talked about in that interview, just because I'd like you to go see that as well. Josh did a great job interviewing him. Make sure I'm going to give you a couple couple things that will excite you about going and listening to that. There's a really good story about Mexican federales. He talks about doing a lot of busking and just walking into places and being like, hey, let me play here. And he talks about, I guess they call it van life these days, but no, it just rode around the van, played music, but makes it a lot more interesting than that. So now that we got that out of the way, so we'll do it kind of quick. Born in Long Beach, age 7, you moved to Brentwood, Tennessee. Now you spent most of your time there, didn't you?
Yeah. I was born in Glendale, but
okay.
it's I mean, I kind of think of it all that area as LA.
Sure. Yeah.
But it is different. But I ended up living in Long Beach when I went back to California as an adult. But yeah, from age 7 to like 21, I was in Tennessee.
Awesome.
Nashville and Knoxville. Yeah.
What'd you study in college?
Psychology.
Got a degree?
I do.
Oh, wow. Does that help in the songwriting and in life?
I don't think so.
No?
I mean, this is a tangent sort of, but I'll just say my opinion on education generally is that these days there's so much great educational content online that I really think unless you specifically track down a great teacher, which is, I mean, maybe you could say priceless, like a really good teacher, you know what I mean? Because they can help you skip so many learning curves or just move so much faster through them. And they've got experience in their field, hopefully. But unless you're really dealing with somebody that's an experienced, good, real professional teacher that cares about you, then I think most of the education isn't that helpful. And you can really learn at a much faster rate if you just hold yourself to a good standard. And there's just so much good material. I think the main thing is organizing it all. But yeah, so really, I think my college days weren't that productive, but I did play I recorded music and, so
you were recording music already when you went into college?
Yeah.
Okay. You said that you started snare drum at age 6 and then eventually got piano lessons, classical piano lessons?
Yeah.
When did the guitar start?
Guitar started after I quit piano because the teacher he was a great teacher, a really good player, but he wanted me to play so specifically. Like he was just, you know, how do you call it? Like micromanaging my playing, or maybe you could say that way, where if I didn't hit the note exactly the way that he envisioned that it should be hit, it's like I was wrong. And it's like, at some point I just got so frustrated of working on the same song for just week after week after week, and I felt like I was playing it really well, but I didn't want to, I don't know. So I just got so frustrated, and I thought maybe I suck or something, and I quit. I did really well with piano. That was the shame of it all, is I actually progressed extremely fast through it. I started taking from a college professor pretty young, but then I just got frustrated and quit, which I really do regret that, because I think like, if I could have continued, even today when I play piano, which I haven't hardly played it at all, I get told by audiences that they prefer my piano playing to my guitar playing. And at this point, I've played way, way, way more guitar than I've played piano. But
is that one of those things that it like comes as a compliment, but at the same time, you're just like, oh, what are you trying to say?
Yeah, it just makes me wish, like, oh man, but I recently bought a piano, so hopefully I bought a keyboard, weighted keys,
Oh, cool.
So I'll put more time into that. But
now, can you still read music and everything on a piano? Can you sight read and stuff?
I was never good at sight reading.
Okay.
But I wish I was. But I just had to put time in, and then once it was all here, then that's what I probably have. One of my greatest strengths is I've got a real good memory for music. Like if I hear a melody, I don't forget it, and it's really hard for me to forget melodies. I just remember. It comes really easy, and so I can put a large library of songs here. And I can remember it for a long time. Even that piano, I played a Chopin piece at like age 10 or something like that, and I've hardly played it over the years, and it's still there. And so,
nice.
Yeah.
Did it help you from like a theory perspective, or was it something where you didn't generally know what theory was yet, but it kind of translated over to guitar? Or
I think like the main thing that playing piano probably did for me was it just brought out so much passion. Like I just loved it. I lose myself in playing the piano for hours and hours and hours, and so that's another reason why it was frustrating to stop. But when I stopped, the passion for music was still there. And so my dad actually bought me like an old eMac, or it was, I think maybe it was new at the time, but it was like those, if you can remember them, they were like a white block. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Was that was like after like the Bondi Blue iMac.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember like, first they were like all the crazy colors, but then I think they tried to like go to white for, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing looked like, it might not run kind of, but, and then he bought me, I think it might've been one of the first generations, of the Scarlett interfaces.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or it might've been something else. I can't remember. And a very cheap mic. And so then I would just end up losing myself in my room, for hours and hours. And that's when I started writing songs.
Just doing overdubs and all that crazy stuff. Or
started playing on a little keyboard to try to put down drums and put down bass and stuff. Yeah. And I had like one of those, I don't know, my dad gave me an old pedal that he had that was like a distortion pedal. And I ran an acoustic guitar through like one of those snap-in pickups through a distortion pedal, and but that's why I learned guitar, is because I wanted to write songs and I wanted to create full mixes. And
gotcha. And
then also once you start traveling, like when I went to college, I couldn't take a piano with me, and I hated keyboards because they back then. Now they've got really good weighted ones.
They sound pretty good.
They sound pretty good.
Yeah.
They feel good to play.
Yeah.
But back then there was nothing, and even for years
it was like Casio. That was, I mean,
yeah.
It was bad. So, did you have guitar instructors, or did you kind of learn by ear, or was YouTube a thing when you started to learn? I don't really know how old you are.
Yeah, I'm 34.
Okay.
YouTube. YouTube was definitely around, but I don't know that there was as much like educational content like there is now, where you can find absolutely anything you want to learn.
Yeah. Don't you envy this generation?
Yeah.
I mean, if they get the focus to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting topic. Like, you gotta wonder what it's actually like growing up in an era where entertainment is just like on full blast at any moment, at the snap of the finger.
It's got to be tough to focus.
It's got to be insane.
In that, yeah. So, I mean, on one hand, I do sound like a boomer saying,
no.
Oh, there's these youngins who are so lucky with their YouTubes.
No, they are. They're all, they're all
sure.
idiots.
Yeah.
No offense. I mean,
nobody
they're
can
going to call me
the car.
Or a boomer.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So, now when you started out, you said your dad gave you a pedal. Was he a musician? Or was he just kind of finding you things?
My parents met as musicians in a band.
Okay.
And it was called Equal Opportunity. I've kind of always wanted to make a band with that name again.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good name. I've never heard of a band called Equal Opportunity. I think it's a great name.
It is, man. Do you know the songs? Like, are there recordings of the songs?
I don't think there's any recordings.
Oh, dude, if you could record those songs, how cool would that be?
I know.
Yeah.
I wish I could hear them, but I don't know that there's any recordings of them.
What'd they play?
My dad played guitar. My mom was a pianist.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that helps. I mean, you were hearing music in the house growing up. When you first started, getting into it, who were your guys? Like, what musicians were doing it for you?
Well, I would say this is one of the weird parts for me, is that my parents barely played music when I was coming up. They didn't play. And so they sort of like, I think it was a thing where they had to, when they got married and decided to have children, they decided to pursue other careers for financial reasons. Mm-hmm. And I think that it was a very hard thing for them, like, to give up on their dream or whatever. And so they just didn't play much at all. And I think because they started doing other things, then their ability level would decrease and they couldn't play to the level that they were accustomed to playing. And so it was just a very difficult
kind of a sore spot or a hard spot to, open up old wounds and such. Oh, man. But what did you get into?
So I got into Muse.
Yeah.
Okay, I loved Muse, and I got probably my biggest influences are John Mayer, Muse, maybe Nickel Creek, and DC Talk. I would say DC Talk.
Okay.
If you know DC Talk.
I remember them. Yeah.
And
so
Maroon 5 as well. Early Maroon 5.
So dudes who could play pop. Yeah. There's some pop with,
Yeah.
Right on.
Chris Thiele can shred on the mandolin.
There's no other than that guy when you talk about a mandolin.
And DC Talk, I think DC Talk is a really interesting one because they're contemporary Christian, and as I've gone back through a lot of contemporary Christian music from the 90s, there's some really, really, really good stuff, and I don't think it got the attention that it deserved. They've written some just incredible songs, and the production is fantastic. The performances are fantastic. I mean, they're on par or better than most of what you hear on radio, I think, and it's just because it has a Christian or a religious bent, it doesn't get celebrated quite like it should. Anyway, that's
awesome.
An opinion.
And those being your initial influences, you still into all of them? It kind of sounds like you are.
Yeah, I love them all.
Awesome.
I don't like Maroon 5 as much, and as they've gone on, but yeah.
All right.
I still like them all.
So when it comes to the recording, I can tell. I mean, you've got a pretty sizable pedal board in here, and we kind of nerded out about equipment earlier, and you like the loopers and the harmonizers, and so are you kind of a gear nerd?
I've become that way. I didn't start out that way.
Yeah. Are you on are you into the forums, or do you watch like the YouTube videos of the new stuff when it comes out, or? Not
much. I mostly just I get ideas about what I want to be able to do, and then I just start looking for how can I do that.
Gotcha.
And then so wherever that takes me.
Since we're talking about gear and we're talking about this pedal board over here, care to share a song with us?
Sure. I'm ready to say goodbye. Been ready for a while. All my love slowly turned to hate, and now I'd like to drift away. Until then, I can do whatever I want, 'cause nothing matters anymore. Then you came and shattered the illusion, and now all I've got is a question. How can I say goodbye to you? How can I say goodbye to this world? How can I say goodbye when love is real? I found a safe space inside my heart. There's a cave. It turns the blood to stone. I couldn't feel I was getting cold, but you came and shattered my delusion, turning my heart into a question. How can I say goodbye to you? How can I say goodbye to this world? How can I say goodbye when love is real? Time's moving past me, and now I know I can feel my time coming. I don't have much time for questions, time to give answers, time to take action. Don't let blood turn to stone. You'll think you're safe till it hits the bone. When you came, it ended my confusion, 'cause you let love answer the questions. and it's how I will say goodbye to you. It is how I will say goodbye to this world. It is how I will say goodbye. Love is real, and it's how I can say goodbye.
All right, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just shredded that out.
For those of you listening, we recorded the songs beforehand, and I'm trying to drop them in during the interview, and we're attempting to act like it's like really natural, and he just sat there and played. So I did notice that used a harmonizer pedal on the vocal just then.
Yes.
And it worked really nicely. Is that that seems like it's a pretty important part of your live setup, is having the loopers and having the...
I absolutely love it. And to like any musicians listening out there, I highly... So I've got a RC1, just a basic looper, a one switch looper. And if you're playing as a solo acoustic, like one of the biggest problems is keeping it interesting. Because it doesn't matter, I think, on some level, how good your voice sounds or how good you are vocally. I mean, anything better, like everything, to use a Joe Cook song title, everything is better than what's worse. I like that. Everything is better than what's worse.
Yeah.
But on some level, it doesn't really matter how good you get at vocals or how like good your guitar tone is or whatever. When you play for 3 hours and people are hearing the same exact frequencies for 3 hours, it's like it just gets grating, or it's just hard to focus on the same frequencies for 3 hours. So you got to find ways to break it up. And also, it's difficult to put out a kind of energy for bar gigs or weddings or any environment where you're supposed to be very high energy and being the life of the party, or just at least caring, sort of being there on that level. It's very hard to do that with just an acoustic guitar and a voice for 3 hours. And so anything that you can use to make that easier on yourself is great. And I think a looper is a very easy way to do that, because you can throw down a simple loop on your guitar and play very simple leads. It doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need to be great. And it just changes it up. It gives people a break from your voice, but keeps the music interesting. It can be gentle. You can go crazy if you want. And then the looper, or then the harmonizer, just adds a little more depth, or it can make the whole sound just so much bigger. And so when you really start cranking, and it just lets you reach an apex in the music that you cannot do without it, unless you had backup singers. It's not as good as a good backup singer, but it is good. They've gotten really good. And so I use the Boss VE2. I think many loopers out there don't sound that real. I've heard them in live settings. But if you use this one well, it really sounds good.
So I'm not going to counter, because this isn't an argument. I'm not arguing with you. There's two things I would say about loopers and harmonizers. Number one, in big bold letters, is if done well.
Yeah. Okay.
And you do it well.
Thank you.
So I do absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
Myself as a player,
yeah,
I'm not the same style as you. It's two guys up there with a beard and a guitar. I mean, but yeah, my whole thing is trying to make a guitar sound as close to the guitar, the vocals sound as close to the vocal.
Yeah.
And, I get boring after about an hour and a half. I'll give you that much. I throw in a different tuning. I throw in a different guitar. I try to change up the kinds of songs I'm playing. But man, it's just one of those things where to each his own. And if you figure out a spot for yourself, that's the key, man. When you initially started getting out there and gigging, what was your focus? Were you thinking about more original? Were you thinking about more covers? Were you thinking, I just want to play?
When I got out gigging, at the very beginning, it was just I wanted to play music, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was probably really like, at the time, I don't know, a mix of like ready for whatever adventure life had, or I just wanted to explore and discover something, and a mix of depression of like life not being what I wanted it to be, and just not feeling like, I don't know, you know, how to put it exactly like that. But I just went out to open mics in LA, and then I was living in my car in LA, and I was like, I need to make some money to eat.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just went out and just started walking to all the places, and that's kind of how I got started. When I got started here, it's more, I'm married now, and I need to, like, you know, kids are on the horizon. I need to know how to pay the bills. Like, I got to pay the bills at all at whatever cost. I got to pay the bills, and part of that's informed, like in the song that I played, or I'm gonna play.
Yeah.
It's called the Space Ark.
Right. Going to. Right.
Yeah. the in that song, I talk about how I've got to chase money even if you cry, and the line preceding that is because folks in the street, they'll let you die, and that's something I came to know pretty close up and personal, because I lived in my car, and I lived in a garage that was donated to me, and eventually at one point I stayed literally with a homeless man who was maybe in his late 40s but looked like he's in his 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an unbelievable guitar player. I mean, just his precision and his timing was impeccable, and his tone was good. He had a little bit of a weird taste in tone, but he was just, you know, he was great. He was great.
Mm-hmm.
And there he is in the street, and it's like, how are you that good? And then you're homeless.
I gotcha.
And he's got problems or whatever. But the point is, he was just going to die. He's just going to die in the street. You know, that's just the way it is. And that's something I came face to face with. And I know, like, if you don't make it happen for yourself, nobody else is going to make it happen for you. So, that's just kind of the way I looked at it. And I just did whatever I could to try to make money. And
I gotcha. Yeah.
Basically that. So I played those bar gigs. I hated playing the bar gigs,
yeah,
because like they expect so much out of you, and they don't pay very well.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I was speaking to Tim Falvey, and he's actually going to do this podcast eventually. And
cool.
When I was talking to him on the phone, and he said, "Man, I'd love to sit and do a roundtable sometime where we talk about
That's
how
cool.
poorly we're getting paid." And I was like, like the podcast, let's do a podcast one-on-one, but I would like to talk to people and eventually maybe do a roundtable where we talk about just some local issues.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope it doesn't get us blackballed as musicians around here, but
yeah,
it's wild. I mean, I'm from Ohio, and generally there's two, and the same thing goes here. There's really two types of gigs you can play. You can play a 3-hour gig where you're playing mostly covers, and if you want to make money, mostly covers people want to hear. I have a job, so I don't have to do that. I can just piss people off and play Tom Waits. But or the second kind of gig is you can play original music as part of a band lineup where maybe you're playing for 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
And you really don't get paid much for that.
Yeah.
But I do notice, by and large, for both versions of that, I got paid a little more elsewhere. And I don't know if Charleston...
Like not in Charleston.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I'm a country boy, so moving here, there are more opportunities to play, but there are also way more people looking to take those opportunities. And there is something to be said about, there are folks willing to play for less.
Yeah.
And it's guys like me who have day jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a responsibility on my part to make sure I'm not just, trying to have it both ways.
I think that whole like area is I think there's a lot of not great ideas that kind of get talked about. It's like, well, it's really complicated, right? Because it's like the restaurants, they all have bills to pay, right?
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing. That's the really hard thing to understand is which restaurants really can afford to pay more, because you don't get to look at their budget line.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So which restaurants can afford, which ones, some may be stingy, some may be not so much. But I think in general, the restaurant business, I think, is just hard. I really think it is. Oh, right? It is, right?
And I know, what they are paying for their rent or their...
It's insane, right?
That's who's making the money. It's the people who's renting the stuff out. And that's... And, I know when I'm standing there in a bar and I'm playing and the room's kind of empty. Yeah. I know I'm getting away with whatever I'm making. They're losing some nights. You know what I'm saying?
Too, yeah.
And it is upon me as a musician to try to put a couple butts in those seats. At the same time, it is up to the venue to make an environment that makes people want to go. Whether it is, you are the place that has the food, or whether you are the place that the musicians they have are going to entertain you. And I don't think there's a magic bullet for that. A lot of people do. Yeah. I don't know any answers. It's
a collaboration, and the venues, like some venues, they've already got the audience built, like they've already established their reputation, and then it's like, people say, like, you don't play for exposure, but at the same time, like, there's value in that. Like, I don't know that I want to go play anywhere exactly for free, totally for free. I mean, I will sometimes, but most of the time not. But, like, I don't know, for example, like, I got an opportunity to play at Saltwater Cowboys. Saltwater Cowboys has a built-in audience, and there's a major value in getting to play for a mainstream audience, right? Like legit mainstream audience, because a lot of the places you play, they don't have the legit mainstream audience, right? So it's irreplaceable to get that chance to play for those people and see how can you learn how to connect with them, and what is it about what you do that connects with them and what doesn't. And you need to bomb, you got to go bomb.
For sure. For sure.
The same thing, like with comedians or whatever, it's a little easier to bomb as a musician. But
I can tell you, from personal experience, there's gigs that I will accept a little less money for. And that's a gig like, there are certain street fairs and farmers markets that you just know there's going to be 500 people standing in front of you that day. Yeah. And if you're delivering the goods, they're going to deliver the ones and fives and the occasional 10. And that's something where, I'll try just about anything once. And, and then I'll decide, was that worth my time? I played a lot of gigs. The first year I tried gigging here, I took whatever I could get, just because I was like, I got to get my foot in the door. Yep. And then there came a point where I started realizing, like, man, I just don't enjoy that one. Yeah. And there's like I can draw an absolute chart of it, of I can enjoy something less if I'm making more money. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, once again, there's not a magic bullet to the situation, but this would be something interesting to discuss, with a group of 4 or 5 of us. Yeah. Let's get back to you, man. Kite surfing, man.
Okay.
For people who don't know what kite surfing is, give me the back of the DVD blurb on what is kite surfing.
Okay, I think kite surfing is one of the coolest sports in the world. I think so. I'm a big basketball player. I love basketball, and I still play basketball like sort of religiously, even though I broke my foot. So at the end of the day, I still really like basketball. But that said, I don't know that there's a cooler sport than kite surfing, because it can be as relaxing or as intense as you want it to be. And essentially what you do is you attach a giant kite to yourself, to your waist, through a harness. And the kite itself will have about 12 feet of square, or 12 meters square area. It's a big kite. They range from anywhere from like 7 meters of square area to even up to like 19 or even a little more. And there's also different kinds of boards and different kinds of kites that you can use. But simply, it's just, you're basically wakeboarding, but instead of a boat, you have a kite. And if you can imagine, boats can't fly, but kites can. So,
if you're doing it right.
Yeah. So you can literally launch on a really good windy day. You make good decisions about the conditions. That's really the main thing, is you got to understand the conditions. But if you make good decisions about the conditions, you can launch 40 or 50 feet into the air, and you can land soft. It's technical when you're going that high, but you can even go like 10 or 20 feet, and it's not that hard. When you put maybe a good month of regular effort into it, and you'll be able to start jumping. And yeah, it's just there's also many different stages of development where it's like a new physical sensation every time, and it's just a thrill, and you can launch over land, and you can go anywhere you want, and that's one of the coolest things. No gas cost. You got to buy the gear, wait for a windy day, and go out. You launch. It's just, I think, I would say especially for a young person, just feeling. I remember like being able to just cruise and ride and feel the wind blowing through your hair and your hands, and you drag your hand through the water. It's just like you feel. There's not much of a closer feeling to being in heaven. Basketball is awesome because it's social, and it's so competitive and fun in that way. But kite surfing is just like meditative and just some kind of physical bliss. It's just amazing.
What age did you start doing that at?
I think probably 21 or something like that.
So you were in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in Tennessee, but there's not really any kiting in Tennessee.
Right.
But my sister had been in Ecuador, and she started learning kiting, and then she told my family about it. My mom was just like, we're going to do this as a family sport. And so she put money into it, and we just all did it.
That's awesome. Do you still, I know you went to the Outer Banks for a while, and you were doing some instruction there, and in California and Turks and Caicos and all kinds of places, man. Do you still do kite surfing instruction? I
do. This year was a terrible year for it. And really the last couple of years, because they closed the beaches for COVID. And then this year was just not a very windy year. But Charleston itself is an amazing place for kiting. If you go to north of Folly Beach, where Morris Island is, you've got the lighthouse there. And at low tide, there's a sandbar that comes out. You get flat, shallow water, which is exactly what you want. You want flat, shallow water for learning conditions, and it's great for riding conditions. And I should also say, this sport is it's a fantastic sport for anybody to get into. If you're a woman or a man or whatever you are, if you have upper body strength or not, it doesn't really matter. People look at kite surfing, they think you need upper body strength. You don't, because it's essentially like a steering wheel of a car with power steering. The power comes through your core, so it's a good ab workout, and it's a leg workout. It's not an upper body workout. And you can do it late into your years because you can make the riding very... when you really get the style down, you can really hang back, and it's like you're laying in a hammock almost a little bit. It's not that relaxing, but you can do it late into your years. I saw a 77-year-old man doing jumps on kite surfing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome, man. And can people get a hold of you and have you be their instructor? Is there a good place to do that?
Yeah. Go to Session Sports. I teach through Session Sports with Adam Super. He runs the company. He used to teach at Kitty Hawk Kites in Outer Banks, and that's where I taught for a while. He's an incredible rider, so it's just fun even just to watch him ride. A cool guy, and Session Sports is a great company to get some lessons from.
Awesome, man. And I'm going to make sure I put a link to all that in the show notes.
Okay.
All right. So let's go to your music, man. Let's go to, like I said in the intro, Noah has 4 albums right now on streaming services. I gave them a pretty extensive listen. So, the first record, Big Picture.
Yep.
Acoustic solo, and you recorded it yourself?
I did. I actually paid like $2,000. This is when I was living in my car.
Uh-huh.
And so I only had like $4,000. I paid $2,000 to record with an engineer out there. And I'm going to tell this story, but I sort of like stopped like talking crap about people at some point. I just thought, you just don't, I don't know. It's all sort of water under the bridge kind of thing, but
sure. I'm
not going to name names, but I will say I hired somebody to work on the record, and I went and recorded, and we decided to just go completely straight, from top to bottom, and I put everything into it on day 2. We got the mix sounding pretty good. We kind of tried some stuff out on day 1. Day 2, I went all out. Put everything into it. So really burning my voice out. And then on like the song number 11 or 12 or something, his computer like froze. Oh. And we lost everything.
Oh, no.
And then he made no effort to like reimburse me or anything. Oh. And then, Yeah. Anyway, so that was a huge loss. Yeah. And then the final product just was like, after that, it's like the vibe as he
sure.
Like,
yeah. You weren't quite feeling it after that? That's what you're telling me?
The vibe sucked, bro.
This is probably not a great time to tell you. I forgot to record. We're going to have to start from the beginning on this, Noah. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least from my standpoint too, like I didn't graduate college, but I actually went for music recording for a little bit of it because it's what I was interested in.
Yeah.
And I'm such a control freak about my own stuff. Yeah. Number one. Number two, man, if you are on the clock recording in a studio, you better deliver that day. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't do your best work, that's it. That's what's on tape, or on the hard drive that gets erased or what have you.
Exactly.
And, from a standpoint where I can spend $2,000 and record in a studio and get what I get, or I can, at this point, spend $2,000 on a pretty good interface and pretty good microphones.
Yes.
And the great part about recording is it's scalable. I have people say like, why don't you go into a real studio? Anymore, there's no such thing as a real studio.
Yeah.
Once you get to a certain level of an interface and a microphone, man, the difference between a Scarlett preamp and a $3,000 tube transistor, what have you, all the buzzwords. Yeah. Man, it's not that much. Yeah. It's the song, number one.
Yeah.
It's the person doing the recording and mixing it. It's their ear.
Yes.
And man, if a record label puts money behind you, they're going to decide whether that's a big hit or not.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
But it's so democratized putting out your own music. The record, big picture. You ended up recording that.
Yeah.
You scrapped all the stuff with that guy, said, I'm going to do this myself.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man, it sounds great. Like I did some research for this podcast, and a lot of that I said, I want to listen to all the music first. I don't want to read about what he's saying his influences are. I want to see what I get from it.
Yeah.
And I definitely got Jack Johnson, Bob Marley. Yeah. Like, even just hearing you play, I got sort of there's an island. It's so laid back. It's open. It's friendly. It's a vibe. I mean, I got it. Like your guitar playing, I call it jazzy because I'm thinking of your chords. I'm thinking of your melodies.
Yeah.
Aaron, listen, like the way that the melodies chase the chord around, I'm into that.
Okay, cool.
Like the song I liked was A Million Miles of Walking. That's from a guy who I'm like a lyrics dude. Yeah, so man, I just liked it.
Okay, thank you, man.
I
appreciate it. Thank you for listening to it. I really appreciate it.
Second record, Beautiful Frankenstein, 2017. A marked increase in production. You got a little bit more gear at the time, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Actually, I mean, yes, I did. I think actually probably, so when I recorded Big Picture, literally all I had, this is when I had been living in the car, and then a couple in Long Beach gave me their detached garage, which was basically like an old carriage house with leaky, like it would flood and stuff. But I had a laptop, a MacBook Pro, and I had a Scarlett interface, and I think that's probably about it.
What mic were you in?
I think it was during that time. That was the first time I invested in like actually good mic, kind of middle of the road. I got an AKG C214.
Okay, nice.
Good mic.
You can make all kinds of things happen with that microphone.
I don't know that I even had that at the time though, but I know I got it. I think I probably recorded Big Picture with that. I'm trying to remember, but by the time I did Beautiful Frankenstein, the reason that the production on that is probably better, or it's just bigger, is I actually recorded that in the Outer Banks, and I recorded that on a bunk bed.
Okay.
I had traveled to the Outer Banks, and I set all my music gear up on a bunk bed.
Okay.
So there's a lot of blankets, a lot of like curtains, so it kind of cushions the sound. That whole thing, almost all of it was recorded in a bunk bed when I was in the Outer Banks for a month.
Are you playing every instrument on that?
I did play everything, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I felt I was happy with how that came out, yeah.
It sounds great, man. Yeah, I have. One thing that I do love that everything's digital. I'm not going to be one of these Luddites that say like, oh, vinyl sounds so much better. You know what vinyl does better? It gives you a real big album cover to look at, which I love.
Yeah.
And dude, liner notes, man. I miss liner notes because when I was a kid and I was looking at stuff, I wanted to see who played on it, who recorded it.
Yeah.
And when I'm listening to your stuff, I was like, man, I wonder if this is, him or somebody else or what the.
Yeah. That's a good
So
point.
yeah, man, it does sound good. Sounds good.
Thanks.
Let me ask you a question, and we can delete this if I can cut this out of the podcast.
Okay.
Electronic drums.
Yes, all electronic drums. Yeah.
Because here's the thing: if you guys out there don't record music, you can act like you're a real big purist and say, "Oh, that's electronic drums."
Yeah.
Good electronic drums sound better than poorly mic'd drums for as much of a purist as you're trying to be.
Yeah. I 100% agree. For a while, I was on the other side of that, of just saying, like, I always wanted everything really natural. And I've heard people say they never want, like, electronic drums or whatever, but
and
it's a natural sound.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And the drums on my album sound terrible. and I'm trying to figure out how to not do that, basically.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the electronic drums, they're real audio. They're audio of real drums.
Yeah.
So it's not like the only thing is, it's like playing an electric piano, is that when you play a real drum, you have literally an infinite number of noises that you can make, because that's the world we live in.
Yes.
Which is what's amazing about this world, right? That's what's just, it's just, it doesn't make any logical sense, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Which is insane. It's so cool. But and so when you're playing electric piano, they have a limited number of different sounds you can make. Maybe you have maybe you have 2,000 different volume levels that they've recorded. I don't know what it is, but there's a maximum and there's a minimum, and then there's everything in between, and you only can play with that. So you don't have an infinite, and that just restricts what you're able to communicate.
Instead of a gradient, it's a selection of crayons.
Yes. Exactly.
But I mean, I'm listening to it, and this is, we're geeking out recording wise. I'm listening to it, and I say, that bass drum sounds great.
It sounds good.
And then I'm like, oh, if only my cymbals would decay like that. And I'm like, if only my real cymbals would decay like that. So it's not like I'm trying to call you to the carpet or anything. I'm just saying, man, it sounded good.
Yeah.
So definitely we're expanding your recording capabilities.
I should say one of the main reasons that my production level was better in that bunk bed was because when I was in Long Beach recording in that detached garage, a songwriter named Nathan Douglas hired me to work on about 200 of his songs. Wow. And we worked on productions of all different kinds. So I did reggae, I did rock, I did punk, I did folk, just anything you can imagine. Even just niche kind of genres or whatever. We did them, and so that working on that many different songs with probably about 100 different local artists that he would hire to come in the studio and perform, that gave me a ton of experience actually working with lots of different voices and different styles. And so then that's a major reason. And I think experience is so much a part of what you're able to do with your mix. Gear is important, but
you got it. Yeah, so what you're telling me is to get better at something, you got to do it a lot. Okay. That's interesting. I'll think about that. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
But I will say, man, that record, even stylistically, you started growing song to song, genre wise. The one I loved on that, and it was for the way it sounded. I'm big into Red Red Room. Just what you had going on with that, ambiently, background vocals, everything, that was my jam.
Right on.
So check out Beautiful Frankenstein. Let's move on. Please tell me how to pronounce your wife's name.
Li Shuang.
Shuang.
Yeah.
Li Shuang.
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and I even there were YouTube things that pronounce it.
Yeah.
And there's 3 different ways.
Okay.
So the next record, Noah Grove by Li Shuang.
Yeah.
Interesting title. Tell me a little about that title.
So the title is very confusing. It doesn't make sense to anybody, but it's okay. It's basically, I felt like it's the new me, or it's me being written now by Li Shuang. That she's kind of my guiding star, and she helps me have a new direction in life. And so this is me when I'm with her. essentially, and so that's what the music is.
Totally get that, man. You are the realized version of yourself on account of
her,
what she's added.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Yeah.
We're even getting more experimental. Like even before I started playing, I noticed and putting stuff in iTunes when you put it in, or Apple Music and Spotify, and it asks for a genre.
Yeah.
And it's such a terrible thing to do. But I noticed before it was like singer-songwriter, and then I see pop, and I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
First track kicks in.
Yeah.
Electronic drums. I mean, we're doing electronica now.
Yeah.
Like, and the whole record, it doesn't stay there.
Right.
I'm like, is this what you're doing? Is this the thing you're doing?
Yeah.
But my notes on this, like, I have electronic, I have jazz, I have Steely Dan with a question mark.
Okay. Yeah.
On Too Good to Be True, I caught a little Steely Dan vibe, even though the title is very Prince with the two and But man, once again, you playing everything?
Yeah.
Nice.
Except for on there's a song called I Love You, and I did almost everything on that, but there's a significant portion of the song that I hired a drummer out of Nashville to record. Yeah.
I actually have on that the arrangement on that one. I am big on.
On Too Good to Be True?
No, on I Love You.
On I Love You. Okay, yeah.
That bass and guitar locking in on that stuff.
I've been trying to get my band to learn that song.
That's where it's at, dude.
It's a dope song.
It is.
And the here's one thing is I don't know about you, but for me as a songwriter, one of the coolest things for me, I always feel like I've accomplished something when I've been able to do something that I feel like I've never heard before, but it's very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like always what I'm looking for. It's like something very simple that I never heard before. And I feel like I did that on that song. It's simple, but the chord progression just moves in kind of a unique way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel complicated.
It's got a groove.
Yeah,
I mean, it's and one thing, I imagine you're this way. I imagine every musician this way. I am my own biggest critic.
Yeah.
But on the occasion where I do something and I go back and I listen to it as if I wasn't me, as if I didn't have all the baggage of having done it, and I can listen to it and go, yeah. I imagine you had to feel that way on that groove when you. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one, man.
I gotta say, like, sometimes maybe you experience this too, like recording music. Like sometimes I get like, all right, for Too Good to Be True. That's one of my favorite songs I ever wrote. I really love that song, and nobody else feels that way. But like I mean, people that seem like they kind of like it, but for me, that's one of my favorite ones I ever wrote. I just think it's not quite where I wanted to be, but the groove is just. I just feel like I did something that I didn't know I was really able to do, and it's like here's another example of how taking something really simple, it sits on an A major 7th, and instead of going sort of 2 frames. It goes an extra third, which wouldn't really normally make any sense, and it just doesn't really make sense. But for whatever reason, it just totally flows and it works.
Oh yeah.
And but like when I'm recording and I'm listening to it, like you're saying, like you listen back to it and you're like, yeah, that works. Like sometimes I feel like I'm like a shaman, like some kind of like I'm in my studio by myself, and I'm making this music, and it's just. I just get so into it, and it's just like, you start feeling it, you start moving around, and it's like, and then you put this out to the world, and it's like you're conjuring up these like, musical or these sonic concoctions that then are going to have powerful effects on people. It's like you're stirring your witch's brew pot, man. And that's just what I feel sometimes. Like, man, if my wife walked in here right now.
See, and that's the other bonus to recording your own music, because you can shut yourself in a room and do all the things that you need to do to get yourself in the correct headspace to play or mix or record what you need to record. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Everybody should record their own music, man. Like the people who do it well, and I absolutely bow down. I have engineers that are like my people. I'll listen to what an engineer. I have producers that are my people. But at the same time, everybody should try to record their own music. Okay, let me ask you this question. This is another thing. On Good Times Ahead, you were doing the jazzy thing on the drums, the brushes. You had the one. Okay, as a terrible drummer myself.
Me too.
Oh boy, that thing with the brushes where you keep the one circling around the drum.
Yeah.
Was that a separate track?
It was just a loop. It's just yeah, I know that probably spoils it for everybody, but it's that just goes to show, like, I just found a good loop for it, and it is a good loop.
It worked, man.
And you have a right to use loops. And,
well, see, I'm listening, and I like not having the liner notes, but I thought I saw a drum set like in the pictures of your place, and I thought, I bet he's recording all that stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm listening as another guitar player who wishes he was a drummer. Yeah, and I'm going, oh, can you do that brush thing? Oh man,
it'd be nice. Yeah. I've tried to mess with
Isn't that such a cool thing? Like real and I call real drummers, man.
No, that's
the
tough.
Ones that
that's
do
tough.
the real subtle stuff.
Yes, it's tough.
Oh, that's the sauce right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Acoustic memories.
Yeah.
Now, you had told Josh Jarman.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to delete that one.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel? Like, this is a couple months later.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I think I'm actually going to delete all of them. I'm going to delete all of them. I'm going to delete every single album because
look,
I'll keep them for myself, but I just think, like, I understand so much more about music, and I kind of want to, like, I feel like I have a much better head for producing what I really want to produce, you know? And
I only made one record, man. It's just 10 songs. It's 10 songs that are out there. I recorded them like in a basement over the course of a month. And people I ran a Kickstarter campaign, got it professionally mastered, but I did all the mixing and everything myself.
Yeah.
And I can't listen to it, man. I made it back in 2017.
Yeah.
And there's times where I'll hear like a snippet here and there and I'll go, okay, that wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, man, I want to do that again. But at what point is it our responsibility to step back and just let something be?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Well, I feel like, I don't know, you know, who really knows? But like, if you're trying to make it as a professional musician, I feel like the stuff needs to be at a certain standard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
And I just feel like what I've done so far, it's just not. It's just, I think it's really good in a lot of ways. I think the songwriting in particular is really some of my strongest points. There's some really good songs. I think there are really good performances on a lot of what I've recorded. I think I do some really good lead work on Beautiful Frankenstein. I feel like...
I'll tell you what, though. Yeah. Couple of those songs, that lead work, remix that, man. It's a little bit buried. And I'm trying to think of which one in particular. There's one I was like, there better be a good lead coming up because it's calling for one. And then it came up and it was a little bit back there. Yeah. But I mean, that's the learning process, and that's that entire album I did. Like, I fantasize about, like, is there a way that I can just redo it?
Yeah,
and like iTunes will let me replace it, and I can track down everybody that bought the CD and just give them the new one. Yeah. I mean, that's something I think about too, man.
That's part of the problem too. Is like going back, and I had that issue actually recording Beautiful Frankenstein. Is that there were songs. There were a couple of them that were a lot older songs, and to get in the same headspace to do them and really do them the way they need to be done, it's like your voice has changed, and it's just not. There's a certain note on one song that I just, no matter how hard I tried to sing it, I just felt like I couldn't do it like I used to be able to do it.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, I'm glad we were talking about you're happy about your songs, because that makes me happy, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about songwriting.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the thing that everybody asks where they say, what comes first, the music or the lyrics? When you, number one, do you sit down to try to write a song?
Not very often, but sometimes.
Okay.
I think it's probably a very good thing to do that, because if you don't do it, like, I don't think that it's right to only write when you get inspiration, because sometimes you get inspiration because you sat down.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, most of the time I wait for inspiration. Because it's just so much easier to write, you know?
Yeah.
It's not fun to like sit there and be like looking at the paper or whatever, you know?
It's
not fun.
and I mean, you start to question your motivation. You're like, is this song happening because I need a song?
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that, but it's like I was watching I was actually watching an Eagles documentary, and Glenn Fry said he lived like next door to Jackson Browne. And he said every day Jackson Browne would just sit down at the piano like he was clocking into work and write a song. Yeah. And I mean, the argument stands that it worked for him.
Yeah.
When inspiration strikes, do you reach for the guitar first?
It's kind of a mix. But yeah, I would say I think that method makes a whole lot of sense. That I think if you're willing to do that and sit down and write, you become better and better, and you learn techniques.
Sure.
And then you also give yourself the most opportunities to find inspiration when you might, just by doing it, you discover your inspiration, and then you write something great. I mean, I think there are a lot of great songs that come out of that. There are a ton of songwriters that talk about that's how they do it. But I think it's not really necessary. And if you just wait and pay attention to when there's something in your heart to write, or when you're feeling something and you feel compelled to write, or just notice when you're feeling something strongly, and then sit down and write, because then you're feeling something, you have something to express, and then you just go and do what you need to do to start the work of getting it and converting that feeling into words and music. But yeah, usually sometimes it's just a melody or it's words in my head. The main thing is if I can get like a little bit of something down that I'm really happy with, that I feel like just nails it. If I get a little bit of something, whether it's a vocal melody paired with a couple words, then I'll just keep hitting that over and over again like it's a ramp or something, and see where it leads. If I can take it to something else that makes me feel like that's right on. And that's what I try to do, is just get one little bit of something at least. Sometimes it comes out really easy, like a lot of people talk about, it comes out really easy. Sometimes it's a little harder, but
now do you demo stuff?
Like, what do you mean?
Like if you're doing stuff and you're like, man, I hope I don't forget this. Do you like record it on your phone or anything?
Yeah.
Now, this is what I've noticed as, a multi-instrumentalist that produces his own stuff. Do you hear all the other instruments?
Actually, this is something that I really wondered. Like literally right now, I can compose like a symphony in my head. I don't know. That's always just been the way I am. I can literally just make up music and have it extremely detailed in my head. But it is really hard to trace each individual instrument. I can hear them all, but it's hard for me to trace.
You can hear what they're doing, like as a group.
And I certainly can't take it down, like
sure.
And it's kind of is there, and then it's just gone, But usually the way that I write different instrumentation is I'll get the structure of the song down, where I have a kind of a melody or a chord progression, and then I'll just start finding what works with other instruments. So if I've got a good guitar chord progression with a vocal melody and lyrics and the arrangement kind of down in terms of just a solo acoustic arrangement, then I'll start working out, what can I do on a bass that really goes with this, and what can I do on that kind of thing.
So it's sort of like a looper's mentality. You get the loop of the song going on in your head, and you're like, what can I add to this? Man, when I write, it's a curse. This is why it's a curse.
Okay.
Because I will write something and hear the fully realized song in my head.
Okay.
It's a curse for two reasons. Yeah. Number one, it's a dragon I'm trying to chase and never quite catch up with.
Yeah, it's hard.
Number two, it makes collaboration nearly impossible.
Okay. Yeah.
You seem like, and you strike me as a guy who's always open for a jam.
I am these days, yes. Yeah.
I tried, man. When I was making that record, I actually invited friends over because I wanted all my friends to be on my record.
Yeah.
And I'd start, and they'd come over and start doing a thing.
Yeah.
And I would feel like such a jerk just because I'm like,
that's a nice idea in theory.
Yeah, I'd either be like, do exactly this.
Yeah.
Or I'd be like, it's not working.
No, it's because you got a certain idea, you got a certain message you want to express, and when it's a nice idea to have your friends come over, but it's like they got to really be dedicated to doing, because you're trying to craft something.
Yeah, and it's. And I'll tell you, man, when I was in college, I was in a lot of bands. And college, for me, was a very special time because everybody who was in a band with you wasn't concerned about putting food on the table. They were usually your friend before they were your bandmate.
Yeah.
and they were just into making the best music that you could make as a group.
Yeah.
Now that we're in I'm 40 now. But now that we're at this age, it's a little different. Like drummers won't work. Yeah. Bass players won't work.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit of that like artistic, like the hunger to make a thing gets lost a little bit in the process of I want to gig and get paid.
Yeah.
So it's hard, man. I wish I had a band. I miss having a band.
Yeah.
I would try to surround myself with people who were so much better than me that the band could never get worse than me. But you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And it was always pretty successful. But I have not heard the Space Ark yet, but I can't wait to hear them, man.
Yeah.
Like, talk a little bit about that. You got a band.
Yeah. This is probably my first real band. I've had some duos and trios, and I sort of had kind of band arrangements a couple of times. I had a band in Argentina one time, but it was very short-lived. But yeah, this is my first like legit band, and the Space Ark, Noah and the Space Ark. So basically the concept, at least the way I think about it, I think probably everyone has their own concept about it. Within the band, they all have their own idea about what the name kind of represents, but it certainly comes from the biblical story of Noah and the Ark, but this time we've got a Space Ark. And so I don't know about any of y'all, but to me, these seem a little bit like biblical times. I'm not exactly a religious person, but I think for me, one of the most important things, or some of the most important things in my mind, are the 7 deadly sins and the 7 heavenly virtues. I think everything kind of comes from your motivation. I think that's really important, and what you let, the spirits that you let guide your decisions, whether it be the spirit of greed or whether it be the spirit of charity or whatever it is. You make different decisions, and a lot of times our inspiration is based on either the 7 deadly sins or the 7 heavenly virtues. But I wouldn't say I'm exactly religious. Nevertheless, I think Noah and the Ark is a cool story. Everyone always asks me, where's my boat when I'm anywhere? And so we've got Noah and the Space Ark because these days it's just getting so crazy with just the way everything is and how people's minds are working. And I don't know, it's just information overload. We need to get out of here. We need a Space Ark. So,
man, that really sounds like something that would best be summed up in some sort of 5-minute epic rock opera. Do you think you have something like that? You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got that. Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah. Why don't you play that?
Okay, I'm going to write something right now. Wasn't it enough to say I love you? Wasn't it enough to know you cared? Wasn't it enough to live with you? Wasn't it enough to say it again? What will it take to be with you? What will it take to show I care? What will it take to live with you? What will it take to say it again and 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 again? Love takes so much to show it. Love, I gave so much, and I still blow it. I
even through it all, you laugh and cry, and that's how I know it. I'm so afraid this place is gonna take away the one that makes me say I wanna stay here forever. I'm so afraid this place won't let me see your face, the one that makes me say love is worth it. Love is worth it. For some reason, and I don't know why, I had to prove to my daddy that I could make the money all by myself. I could make the money with nobody's help. But wicked ways grip like a parasite. It's hard enough to do, enough to say I try. I learned in the streets, folks will let you die. So I gotta chase money even if you cry. But if you get cold, you can take my coat. But the rain became a flood and now my ship won't float. And I've been paddling and running just as fast as I can. I'm tired of this water, I'm tired of this land. Think I need a spacer. Oh, 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 think I need a spacer. A drummer with a good heart, blowing with the dark jokes, keep me from going insane. High end and the mid-range tell me that it's okay to feel the pain, yeah, it's okay. Feel the pain, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Would you like to fly a spacer? Would you like to fly a spacer? Would you like to fly a spacer? We need a captain for a spacer.
And that was awesome. That's like, you know, I have yet to write my Stairway to Heaven or my Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
But that was very like I felt a little Bowie in that. Okay. It was epic, man. Right like excellent. I can't like does the band play that?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Excellent. I can't wait to hear that, man. Are you guys gigging right now?
Yeah, we don't have anything right now. No, that's not true. We're going to be at Folly Beach at Chico Feo, I think on November 29th. I think that's a Monday for the open mic.
Excellent.
We're going to be the feature act for that night. But other than that, we don't have anything lined up right now. We kind of played like probably about 2 gigs a month, about most of this year. We'll look to be in Common House Ale Works probably April of next year, I think. But we kind of like played a decent number of gigs, played a lot of apartment complexes. But that's gonna be our next step. We're really well practiced and rehearsed now, and we just got to line a bunch of stuff up. So, yeah.
Tell me a little about Mic Club.
Mic Club is an open mic, jam style open mic. And so you're talking about I'm always like sort of down for a jam. I 100% relate to. I used to not like jamming because, yeah, it's
right.
Like it gets, and I still like. There are times at my club where I'm like, we're just annihilating this, and this is very difficult right now.
Sure.
But at the same time, you kind of got to go through that. I think that's how people get better, and that's how you get better, and you learn more about. But sometimes it's just like we've all got like machines. They're just making loud noises and are just totally disconnected.
There's a thing that happens in a jam a lot where everyone who is not the lead instrument thinks they're the lead instrument.
Yes.
And I had a buddy that was a drummer, and he went over to Africa, and he studied the drum circles they would do.
Okay.
Now, the drum circles, and you'd probably know, the drum circles they do in Africa are very different than the drum circles you're going to catch outside of the Fish concert.
Yeah.
Now, a drum circle in Africa, you might literally have a job where your drum beat is.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
You don't deviate.
Yeah.
Because you got another guy that's locking into that, and another, and it is such a lesson in economy that, to me, and I know I'm not there yet as a player, your initial instinct when you grow as a player is, okay, how do I play the flashiest thing? But then when a player of any instrument really comes into their own is when they lock in. A bass player locks in on a drum groove. A drummer doesn't play a fill. You know what I mean? And all serves the song.
Yeah.
That's generally why I'm not a jammer. I would absolutely love to find musicians that serve the song.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be my song, man. I'd love to play bass for somebody who just and just serve.
Yeah.
But that's awesome, man. I keep meaning to come up there, but I'm so afraid of jamming.
You should do it.
And it's a rule of Mic Club that you have to get on the mic.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
And it's also, is it opposite of the rule of Fight Club? You're required to talk about Mic Club? Is that another rule?
Sort of.
Okay.
The rule is don't talk about Mic Club, but we kind of want you to talk about Mic Club.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Let me ask you a couple questions that I'm going to ask everybody on the podcast, okay? One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a Spotify playlist that goes along with this podcast. I'm going to put some of your songs on it. Now, if there were songs from the people who have influenced you, past and present, what are some songs you think should go on that podcast? Are there certain songs that are important to you as a writer, as a musician?
Like songs that I wrote? Or songs? Just any song.
Well, what's the best 5 Noah Grove songs?
Okay, probably Beautiful Frankenstein, I would say. And I would say Found Myself Again, I think is a good one.
Okay.
I like Too Good to Be True. I think like it's not where I want it to be in terms of production, but there are the first minute and 15 seconds of that song are just like perfect. I just don't know that I could do it much better. It's just insane. The first, if that's kind of like your thing, you know, that your style of music that you like, it's just like, it just nails it. But I think I love you. Madness is definitely one.
Okay.
Madness.
Yep.
And I kind of got to put Big Picture on there. And maybe get on the upbeat.
Okay. It's
kind of like a staple. But we've got new songs, you know, that we're working on with Noah and the Space Ark. And I think some of my newest songs are my best ones. So I think the Space Ark song is a really good song, and I think How I Could Say Goodbye is a really good one. And we've done one called Groovy Song, which is a really good song.
Awesome.
So
I can't wait to hear that. There's something I'm going to do with this podcast where I hope that as an alumni of the Songs of the Unsung podcast, whenever you have a new thing come out, even if it's over the phone, stop in for 10 minutes. We'll talk about whatever that thing is.
Okay.
So I hope you feel free to do that.
Okay.
Now, if you had to include, say, 10 songs from other artists on your playlist, what are other songs that in your songwriting or musical career have been important to you?
And we're talking about just about any artist under the sun.
Any artist, they're going to be on that playlist with you.
Man, actually, that's a really interesting question for me, because now that I've played for the last year, you know, I've been playing so many different places. I've had to learn so many cover songs. So I'm looking at it from a different lens now. I learned a lot of songs that I don't really care for, or that I wouldn't listen to, you know,
right?
Like Footloose, for example. I would have never listened to that song on my own.
Footloose is kind of a jam, man.
It's a good song. It's a good song, but it's become like one of my go-to songs for any environment because everyone loves Footloose.
Right.
Another one is La Bamba.
Okay.
And so there are some songs that for me now, it's more about the experience of performing them as a way to connect with an audience. So La Bamba would be one and Footloose would be one, but just because they're so easy to get into. the Bamba riff when you open up. Oh
yeah.
It's like infectious, and everyone immediately like. It's like 50% chance that somebody's gonna go whatever, right? So those two. I like playing Neon a lot, the John Mayer song.
Oh yeah.
I never thought I'd be able to play that song, so that one is even just from an experience standpoint.
That's a song that if you have
off.
the ability to play, you absolutely should. Yep.
Yeah. it's a challenge. It's a challenging song, but
what about a couple that like from your youth
Yeah.
that like got you into this whole mess?
how about man, POD just popped in my head. Alive.
I've honestly never had that thought.
I
You got it.
DC. I would say probably DC Talk songs. There are a lot of DC Talk songs that's really what got me into music. So
Okay. Tell me another one so I don't just put Jesus Freak on there because that's the only one I know.
I covered Jesus Freak.
Okay.
We could do Into Jesus is a really good one.
Okay.
Consume Me. Godsend is sort of a newer one. That's a good one. Yeah, I guess that's a good selection there.
Well, awesome, man. Appreciate you coming by. We are going to do a show on December 12th at Free House Brewery that is kind of the showcase of the first three people that are going to be on the podcast.
Okay.
It's going to be Noah Grove, Mike Friend, and Ben Somewhere. Do you know those guys?
Yeah, I know Ben Somewhere, and I know both of them. I think I don't think I've met Mike. I don't think I've met him, but I know.
One of those things where you're Facebook friends with them, but you haven't.
Yeah.
Oh, I have all kinds of friends like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's going to be cool, man. Do you play out at Free House?
I haven't played Free House yet. I got
Excellent.
booked there like once for a wedding that didn't happen.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, it's going to be a great time. Come on out to Free House. Check out Noah Grove. I'm going to put links in the episode notes to all the things we've been talking about. Noah's website, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and the like. And thank you so much, man. I hope you check back in when Noah and the Space Ark gets a record out.
Right on. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you, Eric.
you. All right, folks. Once again, this is Eric Barnett with Songs of the Unsung. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check us out on songsoftheunsung.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, we're on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and the like. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, all the good clicks. We always appreciate them. You can check out Noah Grove. All of his social media links are going to be both on the website and in the show notes. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.